How many times have you laid in bed replaying a conversation, wondering if you could have explained yourself better? If, maybe, just maybe, they would have finally understood you. That ache in your chest, that frustration in your mind, it doesn't come from what you said. It comes from the emptiness you felt when your words didn't matter. You tried to be clear. You tried to be honest. You tried to be kind. But none of it landed. None of it was enough. And yet, you kept explaining, hoping your truth would finally be heard. That pain you're feeling? It's not from being misunderstood. It's from giving your energy to someone who never intended to understand you in the first place. We're taught to explain ourselves, to make things right, to defend our intentions. Somewhere along the way, we learned that being a good person means being understood. But here's the truth. Some people aren't confused. They're committed to misunderstanding you because your clarity threatens their control. And every time you try to justify yourself to someone who thrives on chaos, you hand over your peace. You surrender your power. You trade your sanity for their satisfaction. This isn't kindness. This is self-abandonment dressed as diplomacy. And it's slowly breaking you from the inside out. You don't need to keep justifying who you are. You don't need to break yourself down into bite-sized explanations just so someone else can feel big. You are not here to be approved by everyone. You are here to be at peace with yourself. The emotional exhaustion you carry, it's not coming from your actions. It's coming from your constant need to be understood by people who will never value your truth. It's not your responsibility to make someone else comfortable with the boundaries you set for your own healing. If you've ever felt like your voice was lost in the noise, like no matter how much you explain, you're never truly heard, this message is for you. You don't need to prove yourself to someone who's already decided not to see you. Their misunderstanding is not your burden to carry. You deserve to feel free. You deserve to live without that tight knot in your chest, that racing mind constantly rehearsing explanations, arguments, apologies. Freedom starts when you realize you have nothing left to prove. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear isn't just advice, it's liberation. You're going to learn how to stop explaining yourself to people who don't deserve access to your truth. You'll understand why silence is stronger than justification, why your peace is more powerful than their approval. And most of all, you'll discover the courage to walk away from conversations that drain you, from people who shrink you, and from patterns that no longer serve your growth. If you've been waiting for a sign to stop explaining, this is it. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to stand in your truth, whether they get it or not. Toxic people don't stumble over your words because they misunderstand. They do it because they want control. Their confusion isn't accidental. It's a weapon designed to keep you off balance. When you try to explain, you're stepping into a battlefield where your honesty becomes ammunition against you. They twist your intentions, rearrange your truths, and replay your words until you question your own reality. This is not a sign that you're wrong or unclear. It's a sign that they want to dominate the narrative. They don't want your clarity. They want your confusion, your doubt, your second guessing. When you fall into the trap of explaining, you're handing them the power to rewrite your story. Understanding this changes everything. You begin to see that explaining yourself to toxic people is never about communication. It's about submission. It's about maintaining their power over you by keeping you unsettled, insecure, and desperate for their approval. They're not interested in hearing your side because their goal isn't understanding, it's control. Every word you use to defend yourself is like fuel feeding a fire that only burns your peace. This isn't weakness. It's manipulation. And the only way to stop it is to stop participating in it. You might feel trapped, like walking away means losing something important. But here's the harsh truth. The energy you spend trying to be clear for them is energy stolen from your own growth. It's time to stop being the interpreter for your own value. You are not responsible for explaining your worth to anyone who refuses to see it. Their refusal to understand is their loss, not your failure. You owe no one an explanation for your boundaries, your choices, or your healing process. Those are sacred parts of you, meant to be protected, not negotiated. Imagine what it feels like to release that burden, to stop spinning in circles of justifications. To feel the weight of constant explanation lift off your shoulders like a storm breaking open after a long drought. This freedom is real. It is within your reach. But it demands one thing. You must choose to stop explaining yourself to those who only want to control you. You must choose to protect your peace above their opinions. You must refuse to be a prisoner of their need to dominate the conversation. The people who genuinely care will listen without making you prove your worth. They will accept your boundaries without questions. They will respect your silence as much as your words. Toxic people will never offer you that kindness because it challenges their power. So, the only way to win is to stop playing their game. Your silence, your boundaries, your refusal to explain become acts of rebellion and acts of self-love. This is not giving up. It is rising. It is reclaiming the power that has been quietly slipping through your fingers every time you try to explain yourself. You deserve better than endless debates and emotional exhaustion. You deserve to stand firm in your truth without needing permission or validation. When you stop explaining yourself to toxic people, you create space for your soul to breathe. You reclaim your energy, your time, and your joy. This is your invitation to take that step, to protect your peace fiercely, unapologetically, and forever. The moment you stop explaining yourself to toxic people, you begin to reclaim your sense of identity. It's not just about shutting down pointless conversations. It's about stepping into your own power and deciding who deserves your energy. When you constantly justify your actions, your feelings, and your choices, you dilute your self-worth. You give others the permission to question your value. This cycle keeps you small, confined, and always seeking approval. But what if the approval you've been chasing is nothing more than a mirage? What if true validation comes from within, from the unshakable belief that you are enough, no matter who misunderstands you? This shift in perspective is where transformation begins. Self-validation is the foundation of true freedom. It doesn't depend on others agreeing with you or seeing you clearly. It's an internal compass that guides your decisions and shields your spirit from unnecessary pain. When you cultivate this inner strength, you stop reacting to the opinions of toxic people because you know your truth doesn't need defending. Their judgment no longer pierces your armor. Instead, it bounces off, powerless to shake your confidence. This is not arrogance, it's clarity. It's the calm in the storm that no one else can control. It's the place where you understand that your worth is inherent, unchangeable, and beyond anyone's approval. You are not obligated to explain your boundaries or justify your needs to those who consistently disrespect them. Toxic people thrive on blurring lines, confusing reality, and eroding your confidence until you're left questioning your own sanity. But every time you stand firm without explanation, you disrupt their pattern. You send a powerful message. Your peace is non-negotiable. You refuse to be manipulated by their need for control. This resistance is a form of courage. It's a declaration that you will no longer sacrifice your well-being for their discomfort. Choosing yourself over toxic validation is not selfish. It's survival. This internal shift rewires your mind. Instead of fearing confrontation or feeling the urge to explain, you begin to welcome silence and solitude as healing. Spaces. In these spaces, you reconnect with your true self, your dreams, your values, your passions. You learn to listen to your own voice louder than the noise of criticism or misunderstanding. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes to detach from toxic interactions without guilt or anxiety. Your boundaries become clearer, your energy stronger, and your focus sharper. You start attracting people who respect your truth naturally without forcing explanations or seeking endless approval. Embracing this mindset means embracing your own value without compromise. It means letting go of the exhausting cycle of trying to change others' perceptions when their minds are already made up. It means choosing peace over chaos, self-love over self-doubt, and freedom over control. This is not just a change in behavior, it's a transformation of your inner world. It's the key to breaking free from the toxic patterns that have held you captive. When you stop explaining yourself to toxic people, you create a space where your soul can grow, thrive, and finally breathe. You reclaim your power, your peace, and your life. This is the beginning of your unstoppable journey. Every time you explain yourself to toxic people, you're giving away a piece of your emotional freedom. It's like handing them the keys to your peace, and with those keys, they unlock doubt, guilt, and anxiety inside you. This cycle can feel endless, as if no matter what you say or do, you're trapped in a maze of justifications, always chasing a sense of relief that never comes. But here is a profound truth. Your need to explain yourself is not a weakness. It is a sign that you haven't yet claimed your right to emotional sovereignty. Your peace belongs to you alone. It is yours to protect fiercely, without apology or explanation. Recognizing this is the first step toward breaking free. When you stop explaining, you stop giving toxic people the chance to manipulate your emotions. You refuse to engage in their games of confusion and control. This refusal is a radical act of self-respect, and it transforms the way you relate to yourself and the world. Instead of being reactive and drained, you become intentional and strong. You no longer measure your worth by how others respond to you. You measure it by the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you have nothing to prove. This shift rewires your brain in powerful ways. Psychologically, humans seek consistency in how they view themselves. When you continually explain and defend your choices, your mind stays in a state of uncertainty and stress. When you let go of the need to justify, your brain starts to build a new narrative, one of inner security and calm. This new narrative tells you that you are whole and complete without external validation. It teaches your mind to trust itself and to set boundaries that protect your energy. This is the beginning of true emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is the armor you wear against toxicity. It is what allows you to face difficult conversations without feeling the urge to over-explain or apologize. It creates a space inside you where you can acknowledge your feelings without fearing judgment. With resilience, you learn that silence can be more powerful than words. It can be a shield, a boundary, and a statement all at once. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It means you value your peace more than being understood by those who won't listen. When you stop explaining yourself, you also stop engaging with toxic people on their terms. You refuse to play their game, and in doing so, you reclaim your time and energy. You protect your mental space so you can focus on growth, healing, and joy. This protection is essential because energy is finite. What you give away freely cannot be taken back. Choosing where and to whom you give your energy is one of the most powerful decisions you will ever make. You are worthy of that decision. You are worthy of peace without having to prove it. You are worthy of love without explanation. And most importantly, you are worthy of a life where your boundaries are respected, your silence is honored, and your truth stands firm, unshaken by the noise of toxicity. Claim this right, protect it, live it. Because when you do, you don't just survive, you thrive. The power to stop explaining yourself to toxic people lies within your willingness to embrace discomfort. It requires courage to face the uneasy silence, the judgment, and even the loss of approval. But this discomfort is not a punishment. It is a gateway to freedom. When you choose discomfort over false comfort, you break free from the chains of approval addiction. You step into a new reality where your value is no longer negotiated but fully claimed. This shift does not happen overnight, but each moment you resist the urge to explain, you build strength. Each pause, each refusal, is a brick in the foundation of your emotional independence. Toxic people feed on your need to justify yourself because it keeps you attached to them emotionally. This attachment is a form of subtle captivity, keeping your mind tangled in confusion and doubt. But when you detach emotionally by stopping the explanations, you create distance, psychologically and spiritually. This distance is healing. It clears the fog they've cast over your mind and lets you see clearly. You start to understand that their need for explanations is never about truth. It's about control, fear, and insecurity. And when you refuse to play that game, you reveal the truth that you are stronger than their manipulation. Releasing the need to explain yourself is also about reclaiming your narrative. Your story belongs to you, not to those who twist it to serve their own agendas. When you stop explaining, you stop handing over the pen. You take back control of your story, your identity, and your emotions. This act of reclaiming is powerful because it rewires your subconscious mind. You are telling yourself, I am the author of my life. I decide what is true about me. This mindset dissolves the toxic influence that thrives on confusion and keeps you locked in cycles of doubt. You must recognize that your silence is not emptiness, it is strength. In a world that demands constant justification, choosing silence is a revolutionary act. It says, I will not shrink to fit your expectations. I will not explain my boundaries because they are mine to hold. This silence protects your energy from being drained by meaningless battles. It gives you the space to focus on what truly matters, your growth, your peace, and your happiness. Over time, this practice becomes a shield, deflecting negativity before it even touches your heart. Remember, every time you hold your silence instead of explaining, you nurture your self-worth. You reinforce that your value is intrinsic and cannot be diminished by toxic judgments. This is the core of emotional freedom, the unshakable belief that you do not need to prove your worth to anyone. When this belief takes root, it becomes a force that repels toxicity and attracts genuine respect. You begin to surround yourself with people who honor your boundaries without question, who listen without needing you to justify, who love you without conditions. Choosing not to explain yourself to toxic people is choosing peace over chaos, strength over submission, and freedom over control. It is an act of radical self-love that transforms your inner world and reshapes your reality. This choice is the turning point where you stop being a prisoner of toxic expectations and become the guardian of your own peace. When you embrace this power, you do not just survive, you rise. You have spent so long carrying the weight of other people's judgments, trying to explain and defend your choices, your feelings, your very existence. But what if you realize that none of that was ever truly necessary? What if the explanations you gave were never meant to convince others, but only to soothe your own fears of rejection and unworthiness? The truth is, the constant need to explain yourself to toxic people is a reflection of an internal battle, a struggle to believe that you are enough without their approval. When you break free from this need, you step into a space of radical self-acceptance. You begin to understand that your worth is not a currency to be earned or traded. It is a birthright, untouched by the opinions of those who cannot see your true value. Letting go of explanations means reclaiming your emotional sovereignty. It means refusing to let others dictate how you feel or who you are. This is not arrogance. It is self-respect. It is the recognition that your peace of mind is more important than their need to control or belittle you. Toxic people thrive on confusion, on keeping you off balance by making you second-guess yourself. But when you stop explaining, you cut through the noise. You stop giving them the power to shape your reality. You become grounded in your own truth, and that grounding is unshakable. This process transforms your inner world profoundly. Psychologically, when you stop over-explaining, your brain starts to rewire itself. It no longer associates your worth with others' acceptance or understanding. Instead, it builds new neural pathways that affirm your strength, your boundaries, and your self-trust. This rewiring is crucial because it breaks the cycle of anxiety and self-doubt that toxic relationships create. You begin to approach interactions with calm confidence rather than fear and hesitation. You no longer need to justify your feelings because you have already validated them within yourself. Choosing not to explain yourself is also an act of clarity. It cuts through the fog of manipulation and emotional chaos. Toxic people often use your explanations against you, twisting your words and intentions to maintain control. Silence, in this context, is not passive. It is a clear boundary that says, I will not participate in this game anymore. This clarity is liberating. It allows you to conserve your energy for what truly matters, your growth, your dreams, your happiness. Every word you don't waste on toxic explanations is a word you can use to build your future. Most importantly, this shift changes how you relate to yourself. You stop seeking permission to be who you are. You stop apologizing for your needs, your boundaries, your identity. Instead, you embrace them fully, knowing that your authenticity is your greatest strength. This self-embrace becomes a beacon that attracts genuine relationships, those built on respect, love, and understanding. When you no longer expend your energy explaining yourself to toxicity, you create space for authenticity to flourish. This is your invitation to rise above the noise, to stand firm in your truth, and to protect your peace with unwavering strength. When you claim this power, you transform your life. You transform how you feel inside, how you move through the world, and how others perceive you. This transformation begins the moment you decide that you will no longer explain yourself to toxic people. You begin to live for you, fully, freely, and fiercely. Every time you choose silence over explanation, you reclaim a piece of your power. This power is not loud or aggressive. It is quiet, steady, and deeply rooted in self-respect. When toxic people demand your justifications, they are asking you to give them a key to your emotional kingdom, but you hold that key. You decide who enters and who stays outside. Holding onto your power means setting boundaries that are clear and unyielding. It means refusing to engage in debates that drain your energy or distort your truth. This is not about shutting others out indiscriminately. It is about protecting your inner peace from those who seek to disturb it for their own gain. The need to explain yourself is often tied to fear, the fear of rejection, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of being alone. But what if you viewed this fear differently? What if you saw it as a signpost pointing you toward your freedom, rather than a trap keeping you chained? Fear loses its grip when you meet it with courage, and courage grows each time you stand firm without offering explanations. This courage does not mean you ignore your feelings or refuse communication. It means you communicate with intention and respect for your own boundaries first. When you no longer feel compelled to explain yourself to toxic people, you open a space where your true voice can emerge, clear, confident, and unshaken. Psychologically, breaking the cycle of explanation rewires your brain's emotional patterns. Your mind stops anticipating conflict and starts anticipating peace. The constant anxiety of needing to justify yourself fades, replaced by a calm assurance that you are enough as you are. This shift is crucial because it changes how you interact with the world. Instead of reacting out of fear or obligation, you respond from a place of strength and authenticity. Your energy becomes a magnet for positive, supportive relationships, and toxic influences naturally begin to fall away. Stopping explanations is also an act of reclaiming your time and energy. Every word spent trying to convince someone who will never understand is energy wasted, energy that could be redirected toward your dreams, your passions, and your healing. When you protect your energy, you give yourself permission to grow and evolve without interference. This protective stance is an act of self-love that heals wounds left by toxic interactions. It rebuilds your confidence and restores your trust in yourself. You become less dependent on external validation and more rooted in your internal compass. This internal compass guides you toward a life where you are the primary decision maker about your emotions and boundaries. It aligns you with your values and your true self. You learn to say no without guilt, to walk away without regret, and to prioritize your well-being above the need to be understood by those who do not respect you. This shift is transformational because it breaks the habit of seeking permission to exist authentically. It teaches you that your peace and happiness are not negotiable. Choosing to stop explaining yourself to toxic people is not a withdrawal. It is a declaration of self-worth and a commitment to your own emotional freedom. It is a daily practice of standing tall in your truth and guarding your peace fiercely. This decision reshapes your inner world and your outer reality, creating a life where you are no longer controlled by fear or the opinions of others. Instead, you live with clarity, strength, and unwavering self-love. This is the path to freedom that you deserve, and it starts now. The moment you stop explaining yourself to toxic people, you begin to rewrite the story of your life. You shed the heavy burden of trying to control how others see you and reclaim your focus on how you see yourself. This shift is revolutionary because it changes the very foundation of your identity. You no longer build your sense of self around other people's opinions, fears, or insecurities. Instead, you build it on something far stronger, your own truth and integrity. This truth is not something you need to defend or justify, it simply exists. When you stand firmly in this place, you radiate a quiet confidence that cannot be shaken by criticism or rejection. Refusing to explain yourself is an act of deep psychological liberation. It releases you from the trap of overthinking and second-guessing every word and action. When toxic voices demand explanations, they feed on your confusion and self-doubt. But when you withhold those explanations, you starve them of the control they seek. Your mind begins to clear, and with clarity comes strength. You stop spiraling into emotional exhaustion and start directing your energy toward healing and growth. This is a crucial step toward emotional freedom, the freedom to feel whole, even when others don't understand you. This freedom is also a powerful form of self-protection. Toxic people often twist your words and intentions to suit their narrative, creating endless conflict and pain. When you refuse to engage in these destructive cycles, you protect your mental and emotional well-being. You build invisible walls that keep negativity at bay. These walls are not walls of isolation, but walls of empowerment. They signal to yourself and the world that your peace is non-negotiable. You become the guardian of your emotional sanctuary, refusing to let chaos or cruelty enter your space. Choosing silence over explanation also changes the way you communicate. You begin to speak less to convince and more to express. Your words carry weight because they come from a place of authenticity, not desperation. This shift influences how others respond to you. When you stop trying to justify yourself, people either accept you as you are or reveal their true colors. This is a form of emotional sorting that saves you from wasting time on relationships that drain you. It opens the door to connections that uplift and inspire, relationships based on mutual respect and genuine understanding. The courage to stop explaining yourself also transforms your inner dialogue. You begin to replace doubt with affirmation, fear with strength, and confusion with clarity. This internal transformation is the foundation for lasting change. It rewires your brain to prioritize your well-being and happiness above all else. You become less reactive to criticism and more responsive to your own needs. This shift empowers you to make choices that align with your values, even when they challenge others' expectations. This is the power of reclaiming your voice, not by speaking more, but by choosing when and how to speak. It is a declaration that your truth matters, and you will no longer dilute it to appease those who refuse to see your worth. This choice is a radical act of self-love that sets the stage for profound personal growth. When you embrace this, you open yourself to a life of freedom, authenticity, and peace that no toxic force can ever take away. There is immense strength in choosing your peace over the need for approval. When you stop explaining yourself to toxic people, you choose to honor your own reality rather than bend it to fit someone else's distorted perspective. This is not an easy path because it challenges deep-seated habits formed from years of seeking validation and fearing rejection. Yet, it is the only path that leads to genuine freedom. The moment you prioritize your peace, you begin to dismantle the toxic cycles that have held you captive. This dismantling creates space for healing, growth, and the rediscovery of your true self. Toxic people thrive on confusion and doubt because these emotions keep you tethered to them. When you break free from the compulsion to explain, you stop feeding those toxic patterns. Your silence becomes a shield, protecting your mental and emotional well-being. This shield is not passive. It is a powerful statement of self-respect. It says to yourself and the world that your energy is sacred and will not be wasted on those who do not value it. This realization alone can ignite a profound internal shift, one that strengthens your resilience and sharpens your sense of self. The psychological impact of ceasing to explain yourself is profound. It rewires your brain's responses, shifting you from a reactive state to a place of calm empowerment. Instead of spiraling into anxiety over how others perceive you, you anchor yourself in your own truth. This anchoring reduces stress and enhances your emotional stability. Over time, this creates a positive feedback loop. Your confidence grows as your peace deepens, and your peace deepens as your confidence grows. This loop is the foundation for a new way of living, one where you are no longer hostage to the judgments and demands of toxic people. Choosing not to explain yourself also redefines your relationships. It acts as a filter, revealing who truly respects and values you. Those who insist on control or constant justification are not invested in your well-being. They are invested in their own need for power. Letting go of the need to explain to such people frees you to nurture relationships built on mutual respect, trust, and authenticity. This shift is essential because it transforms your social environment from one of stress and drama to one of support and encouragement. You begin to surround yourself with people who uplift rather than drain you. This decision also empowers your voice in the ways that matter. When you stop explaining to those who will not listen, you save your energy for those who do. You learn to speak with intention and clarity, expressing your needs and boundaries without fear or apology. This is not about becoming silent or passive. It is about choosing your battles wisely and guarding your emotional resources fiercely. This approach increases your influence and impact because your words come from a place of strength rather than desperation. People recognize this strength and respond accordingly. Ultimately, choosing silence over explanation is a radical act of self-care and self-love. It rewires your brain, protects your peace, refines your relationships, and strengthens your voice. It is a commitment to living on your own terms, free from the need to justify your existence to those who do not deserve it. This commitment is the gateway to a life marked by clarity, confidence, and courage. The life you were always meant to live. How long have you allowed yourself to be trapped in the exhausting cycle of justification and apology? The endless need to explain, defend, and prove yourself to toxic people drains your spirit and clouds your clarity. Every time you attempt to make them understand, you lose a little more of your peace. This cycle is not just tiring, it's corrosive. It chips away at your confidence, leaving behind self-doubt and confusion. Recognizing this truth is the first step toward reclaiming your power. You must understand that you are not obligated to justify your worth to anyone who thrives on control and manipulation. Your energy is your most valuable resource. When you expend it on trying to convince toxic people of your intentions or your feelings, you deplete the reservoir meant for your growth, dreams, and happiness. This constant drain leaves you vulnerable to emotional exhaustion, anxiety, and even physical symptoms of stress. It's time to prioritize your energy by choosing where and with whom you invest it. Imagine redirecting that energy toward yourself, toward healing, learning, and building the life you deserve. That shift is not just beneficial, it is essential for your survival and flourishing. Understanding the dynamics of toxic relationships is crucial to breaking free. Toxic people use confusion as a tool because it keeps you off balance and dependent on their approval. By continuously explaining yourself, you reinforce their control and enable the toxicity to persist. Breaking this pattern means refusing to engage in their manipulative games. Silence becomes a powerful form of resistance. It is not a retreat. It is a strategic pause that protects your boundaries and preserves your sense of self. This silence disrupts their control and creates space for you to breathe, think, and grow. The psychological power you gain from this practice is transformative. When you stop trying to explain, you shift from a mindset of scarcity to one of abundance. Scarcity makes you feel small, inadequate, and desperate for validation. Abundance reminds you that your worth is inherent and does not depend on external approval. This mental shift changes your entire experience of relationships and life itself. You begin to see yourself as whole and complete, worthy of respect and love simply because you exist. This realization is the cornerstone of genuine confidence and emotional resilience. Letting go of the need to explain also empowers you to set clear boundaries without guilt or hesitation. Boundaries are the invisible lines that protect your emotional and mental well-being. Toxic people will test these boundaries, but your refusal to explain or justify them communicates strength and self-respect. It teaches others how to treat you and creates an environment where healthy relationships can thrive. When you uphold your boundaries, you not only protect yourself, but also model a standard of respect that others will learn to honor. Choosing not to explain yourself is an act of radical self-respect and courage. It requires a deep commitment to your own well-being and a willingness to stand firm even when it feels uncomfortable. This commitment pays off in the form of greater peace, stronger relationships, and a clearer sense of purpose. It allows you to live authentically, free from the chains of toxic expectations. Embrace this practice not as a one-time decision, but as a daily act of empowerment. Each moment you choose silence over explanation, you step closer to the life you are meant to live, bold, free, and fully in control of your own story. Have you ever noticed how exhausting it is to constantly explain your feelings, your choices, and your boundaries to those who refuse to listen with an open heart? This endless demand for justification comes from a place of control, not understanding. Toxic people thrive on confusion and doubt. They want you tangled in a web of explanations so they can keep pulling the strings. But every time you engage in that cycle, you surrender a piece of your peace and power. It's time to see this clearly. Your silence, your refusal to justify, is your strongest form of resistance. It is a boundary that cannot be crossed, a statement that your worth is not negotiable. Refusing to explain yourself is not about arrogance or cutting people off without cause. It is about recognizing your emotional sovereignty. It means understanding that you are the guardian of your mental space and no one has the right to invade it under the guise of needing explanations. Toxic individuals often weaponize guilt to wear you down, making you feel selfish or unreasonable for withholding your answers. But this is a lie that you must reject. You owe no one a detailed account of your inner world, especially when that world is met with criticism, dismissal, or manipulation. Protecting your energy is an act of self-love, not selfishness. When you stop explaining, something profound happens inside. You create room for clarity. Your mind stops racing to justify and defend, and instead, it gains the calm and space it needs to heal and grow. This clarity allows you to see your relationships for what they truly are, not what you hoped they would be or what you fear they might become. You begin to identify which connections nurture you and which ones drain you. This awareness is the foundation for real change, because it gives you the power to choose who belongs in your life and who does not. This choice is a declaration of your value. It says, I am worthy of respect. I am worthy of kindness. I will no longer negotiate my worth to anyone who refuses to honor it. It shifts the energy from seeking approval to commanding respect. This transformation changes the way others interact with you because it radiates a quiet but undeniable strength. When you no longer explain yourself to toxic people, you stop feeding their need for control and start feeding your own need for peace and dignity. Remember, this is not about cutting ties impulsively or out of anger. It's about cultivating discernment and protecting your well-being with intention. Toxicity can lurk in many forms: words, behaviors, expectations, and your refusal to justify is a way to safeguard your soul against these subtle invasions. You create a protective shield that lets in what serves you and deflects what harms you. This shield is your boundaries, your silence, your self-respect, all working together to keep your inner world safe. Every time you choose silence over explanation, you choose freedom over bondage. You reclaim control over your narrative. You stop being a prisoner to the toxic expectations of others and start being the author of your own life. This is empowerment in its purest form, a daily, conscious decision to honor your truth and protect your peace, no matter the noise outside. This choice is yours to make, and it will transform everything. Have you ever realized how much power lies in silence? Not silence born of fear or confusion, but silence that commands respect. When you stop explaining yourself to toxic people, you reclaim a sacred space where your energy is no longer wasted on justification or defense. This space becomes your sanctuary, a place where you can nurture your confidence and self-worth without interference. Toxic individuals thrive on chaos and doubt. They feed on your need to prove yourself, to explain your every move, to apologize for being who you are. But your silence, calm, firm, unshakable, is a signal that you are no longer available to their games. It is the ultimate act of courage and self-respect. This courage is not about confrontation, it is about protection. It's about protecting your mental and emotional health from those who seek to diminish it. Every time you explain yourself to someone who refuses to listen with empathy, you lose a bit of your strength. Your energy drains into the void of their judgment and manipulation. But when you withhold explanation, you conserve your power and redirect it inward. You show yourself that your value does not depend on their approval. You affirm that your truth stands on its own, regardless of who tries to tear it down. The psychological truth is this: people who demand constant explanations are often trying to control your narrative. They want to keep you trapped in their perception so they can maintain dominance. Your refusal to comply shatters that illusion. It unsettles the toxic pattern and forces a reckoning. When you no longer give them what they want, you shift the power back to yourself. This shift is transformational because it awakens your inner authority. You begin to see that you are the only one who truly knows your worth, your reasons, and your boundaries. No external validation can replace this deep self-knowledge. This awareness creates an unbreakable foundation for emotional resilience. It means you stop questioning your choices because someone else disapproves. You stop seeking permission to be yourself. Instead, you start living according to your own standards, your own truth, your own peace. This shift doesn't happen overnight, but every refusal to explain is a step toward it. Each step strengthens your resolve and builds your confidence. You realize that your peace is non-negotiable, and protecting it is your highest priority. When you stop explaining yourself, you send a clear message. Your time and energy are valuable, and you will not squander them on those who do not respect you. This message resonates louder than any words. It creates distance from toxicity and attracts relationships built on mutual respect and understanding. You begin to surround yourself with people who accept you without demanding explanations, people who honor your boundaries and celebrate your growth. This change elevates your life because it replaces doubt and confusion with clarity and strength. The path of no longer explaining yourself to toxic people is a path of liberation. It frees you from the endless cycle of guilt, anxiety, and self-doubt. It frees your mind to focus on what truly matters, your dreams, your growth, your happiness. This freedom is your birthright, waiting for you to claim it. Every time you choose silence over explanation, you step closer to living a life defined not by others' judgments, but by your own power and peace. This choice is transformative. It is your breakthrough. It is the moment you finally take control. Have you noticed how often we give away our power in search of approval? It's a subtle trap, almost invisible until you're deeply caught in it. When toxic people demand explanations, they aren't interested in your truth. They want control. They want to make you doubt yourself so you become easier to manipulate. Every explanation you offer becomes a thread in their web, binding you tighter. But here's the truth. Your need to explain yourself is a habit rooted in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of conflict. Recognizing this fear is the first step toward breaking free. Imagine the weight that lifts when you stop feeling obligated to justify every choice. That weight is not just burden. It's a chain holding you back from your full potential. When you refuse to explain yourself to those who don't respect you, you cut those chains. You reclaim your autonomy. This isn't arrogance or stubbornness. It's self-preservation. It's a declaration that your energy is sacred, and you will no longer invest it where it's wasted or weaponized against you. The psychology behind this is profound. When you respond to toxic demands with silence or calm boundaries, you disrupt their expectation of control. Toxic people rely on eliciting reactions, confusion, guilt, anger, to maintain their influence. When you withhold these reactions, you deny them their power. This silence is not emptiness, it is a shield. It signals that you have an internal strength they cannot penetrate. It is a refusal to engage in their cycle of manipulation. This internal strength grows every time you choose it. You build resilience not by confronting toxic people head-on, but by refusing to play their game. You redirect your energy toward nurturing your self-worth and inner peace. This redirection is revolutionary because it changes your entire emotional landscape. Instead of being reactive, you become proactive. Instead of being drained, you become energized. Instead of feeling small and defensive, you stand tall and unshakable. What happens when you stop explaining yourself is that you begin to trust yourself more. Your inner voice becomes louder than external noise. You learn to listen to your intuition and honor your boundaries without guilt. This trust is a foundation for authentic confidence. It frees you from the exhausting need to seek validation and approval. It allows you to live fully in your truth, unapologetically. The ripple effect of this transformation is powerful. People around you sense the change. You attract relationships that are genuine, where respect is mutual and explanations are unnecessary. Toxic influences fade away because they can no longer tether you with doubt and confusion. You create a space around you that nurtures growth instead of draining energy. This new environment supports your highest self and deepest aspirations. Breaking free from the compulsion to explain yourself to toxic people is not just about setting boundaries. It is about reclaiming your life. It is about choosing peace over chaos, strength over fear, and freedom over control. It is about stepping into your power with unwavering clarity. This choice demands courage, but the reward is immeasurable. A life lived on your own terms, filled with purpose, respect, and unshakable peace. This is your truth. This is your power. This is your freedom to claim now. How often do you allow the opinions of others to dictate your self-worth? The moment you hand over that power, you become vulnerable to manipulation, confusion, and doubt. Toxic people thrive on this vulnerability, feeding off your need for acceptance and your fear of rejection. But what if you could sever this dependency? What if your sense of value came from within, unshakable and independent of external judgment? This shift isn't just liberating, it's transformative. When you root your worth in your own truth, the toxic voices lose their grip. They become mere noise, unable to penetrate the fortress of your self-belief. Your mind is a battlefield, where control is fought quietly. Toxic influences work to invade your thoughts, planting seeds of insecurity and second-guessing. This is deliberate, an assault on your confidence designed to keep you tethered to their influence. But your mind is also your strongest ally. When you choose to protect it with unwavering boundaries and self-respect, you stop the invasion. You stop the erosion of your identity. This protection is not passive, it is an active, daily choice. It demands vigilance and courage. Every thought you nurture, every belief you cultivate, becomes armor against manipulation. This armor does not isolate you. It empowers you to engage with the world from a place of strength rather than fear. There is immense power in silence, in choosing not to react to provocations that aim to destabilize you. Toxic people often expect responses that validate their control, the anger, the explanations, the justifications. When you withhold these responses, you disrupt their strategy. You communicate that your energy is not theirs to command. This creates a profound psychological shift. It signals to your mind and to those around you that you are no longer available for emotional manipulation. Instead, you create space for clarity, peace, and intentional living. This clarity leads to a radical self-awareness that is essential for transformation. You begin to recognize not only who drains your energy, but why. You uncover patterns and triggers that previously kept you stuck in cycles of toxicity. This insight is a catalyst for change because it arms you with knowledge and choice. You realize that you are not powerless against toxic dynamics. Rather, you have the agency to redefine your boundaries, to say no, and to prioritize your well-being. This agency is the cornerstone of self-mastery. When you claim this mastery, your entire life shifts. You no longer react out of fear or obligation. You act out of alignment with your values and deepest needs. This alignment creates a magnetic force that attracts positive, supportive energy and repels toxicity naturally. Your relationships deepen, your confidence soars, and your purpose becomes clearer. You become a beacon of strength, not despite your past challenges, but because you have risen above them with grace and determination. This journey demands relentless commitment, but the reward is beyond measure. A life where you control your narrative, guard your peace, and cultivate resilience is a life of profound freedom. This freedom is not granted by others. It is claimed by you every single day through the choices you make. It is a gift you give yourself, one that transforms fear into courage, doubt into clarity, and chaos into peace. Your power lies in this choice. Choose it now. Choose you. Every step you take toward owning your power is a step away from the invisible chains that have held you captive for too long. It starts with the refusal to let external chaos dictate your internal peace. Your mind is a sacred space, and protecting it is not optional, it is essential. When you decide to stand firm, to protect your energy fiercely, you create an unbreakable foundation beneath your feet. This foundation is built from self-respect, unwavering boundaries, and a commitment to your own truth. It is the soil from which resilience grows, the platform from which you rise. Resistance will come. Doubt will whisper that you are not strong enough, not worthy enough to claim this freedom. But these are the echoes of old programming designed to keep you small and compliant. You are not here to carry the weight of someone else's toxicity. You are here to rise, to break cycles, to embody a new standard of strength. This strength is not about domination or control. It is about sovereignty over your own life. Sovereignty means choosing who you allow into your inner world, what you absorb, and what you reject. It means understanding that your time, your energy, and your spirit are priceless resources that deserve the highest respect. When you begin to live from this place, your decisions become intentional acts of self-love. Saying no is no longer an act of defiance. It is an act of protection. Walking away from what drains you is no longer seen as weakness. It is recognized as wisdom. This wisdom is a radical declaration that your well-being is non-negotiable. It shifts your relationships and interactions from reactive survival to proactive empowerment. You become the guardian of your own peace, the architect of your own destiny. Inner transformation demands relentless honesty. You must face the uncomfortable truths within yourself, the fears, the insecurities, the habits that keep you tethered to toxic cycles. This is not easy, but it is necessary. Growth is forged in the crucible of self-awareness. When you confront these truths without judgment, you dismantle their power over you. You replace old narratives of limitation with new ones of possibility and strength. This shift rewires your brain to seek out health, joy, and growth, rather than pain and stagnation. Every boundary you set, every moment you choose peace over conflict is a victory. These victories build upon each other, creating a momentum that propels you forward. Your energy becomes your currency, spent only on what nourishes your soul and advances your purpose. Toxic influences lose their allure because you no longer need external validation to feel whole. Your worth is inherent and undeniable. This awareness transforms how you show up in every area of your life, how you work, how you love, how you dream. Remember, transformation is not a destination but a continuous journey. There will be days when old patterns tempt you back, when the noise grows louder and the weight feels heavier. These are the moments that test your commitment, your resilience, your self-love. Lean into these tests. They are opportunities to reaffirm your sovereignty, to deepen your roots, and to rise higher than before. You are more powerful than your circumstances, your history, and the voices that seek to diminish you. Claim your power fiercely and without apology. Protect your peace like the most precious treasure. This is your life. Live it on your terms, with your truth blazing as your guide. Your transformation is happening now, and nothing can stop you. There is a force inside you that cannot be broken, a light that refuses to be dimmed by the storms around you. It is the essence of your true self, unyielding, unwavering, and infinitely powerful. This force grows stronger each time you choose to honor your boundaries, to protect your peace, and to speak your truth, without hesitation. It is not a fragile flicker, but a blazing flame fueled by your commitment to rise above every challenge that seeks to consume you. You are the creator of your reality,